With how important getting the right test scores and doing your best in college and the overall weight of college, um, a lot of students feel like a mindset of perfectionism and striving for the absolute best of the best at all times is the not only the beneficial way to go, but the only way to go to actually succeed during college. In reality, perfectionism can lead to a lot of negative consequences that can really derail not only your academic momentum and progress, but just your well being in general. And ultimately, we need to find ways to embrace imperfection and focus on our academic progress in a different way other than being perfect all the time. Let's talk a little bit more about perfectionism and really what it can kind of lead into. Perfectionism, like I previously said, is that mindset of everything needs to be at the top quality every time, all the time. And, these are good, broad mindsets to have at a surface level, but ultimately it leads into feelings of procrastination. If you feel like you can't be perfect in that moment, you're going to end up not doing that assignment or studying. Procrastination ultimately is a way of protecting ourselves. If we're afraid we're not going to be able to be at the best of our abilities, then what's the point even doing it? So I should just put it to the side and not think about it. And these procrastination feelings can really lead to a negative spiral where you're halting your momentum academically. One of the absolute hardest parts of starting a study session or starting a long 5-page essay is sitting down and starting it. That first step can be really, really big and really daunting. And procrastination and perfectionism only makes that first step even longer to take. Perfectionism really does breed the need for external approval. Instead of finding a lot of strength and confidence and motivation from yourself and what you believe your values are, you have to derive it from others' expectations and fulfilling those expectations. The problem with weighing so much of your values and your performance on others' expectations is you don't really control exactly what they're expecting out of you. Maybe they're unrealistic expectations. Ultimately, motivation and objectives that you set, long-term and short-term goals, are going to be more likely to be beneficial and be accomplished if they're derived from places within yourself, your own values, rather than others' outside expectations. Luckily, there are ways that we can help make it more manageable and help build step by step goals and processes that can help us build that academic momentum and confidence. And most of it's going to be through how we set our goals. When we are planning out exactly what we want to achieve in a given day or week or even a semester, the quality, the quantity, and the context of those environments and those sessions matter so much. And the expectations that you have going into a certain session and the goals that you set, they matter so much. So instead of doing broad, lofty goals during a given study session that you ultimately are less likely to achieve, regardless of how you're feeling that day, finding ways to make specific and achievable goals is key. Breaking up these large, broad goals into step-by-step pieces that you can check your progress in and build on piece by piece. Ultimately, success doesn't come from all or nothing achievement. It's not binary in that way. It's more about that continuous process, trial and error, having 2 steps forward and 1 step back. You're still making 1 step forward. So taking the good and the bad is such an important way to appreciate your progress and to accurately identify where you are in your learning process. This mindset is called procedural thinking. You're taking it 1 step at a time. You're telling yourself when you sit down at your desk or at the library and you have 3 hours of work to do, you're telling yourself, I'm going to sit down and focus for the next 30 minutes just on this because I trust myself that step by step, I will cover everything and I don't need to worry about everything right now. if I can just focus on one part of this and get it done and feel great about it, I can move on to the next thing and then move on to the next thing. And ultimately, we're getting the ball rolling to where you can look back at the work you've done and you tell yourself, oh, for example, I've gotten 2 out of these 4 assignments I've got to do, these objectives that I've set in one assignment, rather than having one large assignment like a paper or even a study session and telling yourself, oh, I'm not done with it yet. Creating 4 or 5 or however many steps you want, creating those steps allows you to view it in your mind as progress rather than I have one big uncompleted thing. You got to recognize and celebrate the work you're putting in. And that context and that self-awareness is really important for feeling confident in yourself and accurately assessing where you are and where you need to go. So ultimately, it may be hard to embrace imperfectionism, but it really is more about embracing the ups and downs of the learning process. Not everything is going to be a steady hill up towards complete absolute knowledge, towards that perfectionism. So we need to have the expectation that we will have some setbacks. We will not have good days. Ultimately, we need to have that resilience built up to where we can survive a bad day or a bad hour of our studying process so we can bounce back and feel confident, retain that confidence in ourselves. If we are taking a healthy pace and taking our time to get things done, but also realizing that maybe sometimes getting an assignment done is better than have it be perfect. Let's say you're headed right towards a deadline. That mindset can really help relieve stress and feel better about where you are, both in that assignment and long term, in terms of your knowledge, your understanding of the material. Ultimately, we want to also prioritize making sure that we're well. Our wellness is up to what it should be. And perfectionism just deteriorates. And so giving ourselves room to breathe, but also creating these checkpoints can really help us track our progress so that anxiety and that stress doesn't overwhelm us with that perfectionism. We want to hear from you. Do you have any specific strategies that you use whenever you feel like you're getting into a perfectionism mindset? Or is there another certain video that you would like to see us cover on the YouTube page? Please comment, like, subscribe on the channel. We really do appreciate the feedback.